What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. I'm back at my house now, finally. I have all my equipment here, and you might have noticed something different about the intro. My friends over at the Fantasy Football Network hooked that up for me, so I'll leave their description. I'll leave their channel and their YouTube, their Instagram, whatever. I'll leave all that in the description so you guys can go check them out. Huge help. Makes me look a lot better. So that's cool. But it's week 6, right? I've got some notes with me here per usual. We do have some teams on a bye. Those teams include the Jets. Those teams also include the Falcons, the 49ers, and there's one more. It's not coming to me right now. Jets, Falcons, 49ers. I'll think of it. We'll find out as we go. Or at least I should say on here. Hold on. Now I want to find this, because if I don't, it's going to piss me off. The Giants are playing this week. Kansas City, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Vegas, Detroit, and the Rams. Chicago's playing this week. Tampa Bay. Who else is on a bye? Is it Arizona? No, Arizona's playing. New Orleans. There we go. Boom. So the Saints are on a bye. Falcons, Jets, and 49ers all on a bye this week. So we're going to go over the teams that are actually playing, including Philadelphia hosting Tampa Bay on Thursday Night Football. Look, Brady's coming off his 5-touchdown, 400-yard game that really put him into the quarterback 1 spot overall right now. So Tom Brady is the QB1 in fantasy football at the age of 44. Kind of cool. As far as his backfield goes, so Gio Bernard has gotten back into the mix, but he played roughly 20% of the snaps. This is Leonard Fournette's backfield to lose right now. He's currently playing 62% of the snaps. And Leonard Fournette also, he played 5 pass blocking snaps, and Gio Bernard played 1. So it seems Fournette has improved in the one area in which he was bad at, which was pass blocking. So if that keeps up, he might keep this role throughout the year. In this game here, when you have all 3 of those wide receivers, I don't care how good this Philadelphia run defense is, you're starting Fournette. He is a weekly low-end running back too, until proven otherwise. Rojo is just kind of forgotten at this point. He's fumbled, and he's fumbled his chance away too many times, we'll say. G. Bernard may be intriguing in PPR deeper leagues, but for here, I'm not interested. Look, there's not a lot to put for these wide receivers for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown all definitely startable this week, as they have been. Mike Evans will likely see a lot of Darius Slay, and Slay has been good, or, he's been on the fence this year. He's sometimes been good, sometimes been bad. But overall, it's not going to affect his play. Slay hasn't been that good, and Evans has been great. So, as far as these tight ends go, Cameron Bray and O.J. Howard both ran a similar amount of routes, but it doesn't really matter because they both totaled 3 targets. O.J. Howard played 59% of the snaps, and Bray played 38%. So if you want to, pick your poison, Howard had like 1 more target than Bray. He seems like the guy, considering Gronk is out again. So, but I'm not interested in either. Jalen Hurts, my guy going into this year, he has not had a single game less than 20 fantasy points. This Tampa Bay secondary is decimated right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But, as far as the running backs go for Philly, look, Miles Sanders hit his second highest game as far as opportunities go last week. He had 17 opportunities, and opportunities combined targets and carries. He hadn't had that many since week 1, where he saw over 20 opportunities. In between then, he really hasn't been able to get over 10 points. But I do like this game for Kenny Gainwell, right? Because last week, Myles Gaskin, 10 targets at the ground. He was very effective catching the ball out of the backfield. Levante David, he's been pretty good as of recently. He is doubtful for this game. And Levante David specifically has been good at run blocking and going side to side. So without him there, it does definitely help the situation for a guy like Miles Sanders, but I'm still not fully comfortable starting him, especially in the best run defense in the entire NFL. As far as Devonta Smith, he is going to see likely a lot of Richard Sherman. So Richard Sherman is only staying on the left side of that field. Devonta Smith primarily plays on the left outside of the field, so he will be lined up against Richard Sherman quite a bit. The good news is Smith is moved around, and Richard Sherman has not been that great as far as coverage goes. Smith has also had a 20+% target share in back-to-back weeks. This is a game where they're going to need to throw the ball, so I'm 100% fine with starting Devonta Smith here. I mentioned the Tampa Bay secondary is decimated. Carlton Davis is still on IR. I believe Jamel Dean is going to be okay for this game, but he's not their starter. He's obviously not the guy they'd prefer to have on the field right now. No Dallas Goddard. Dallas Goddard has been put on the COVID list. He has to test negative twice before the game, and I just don't really see that happening before today when you're watching this, and tomorrow being when I'm recording this. So it looks like Ertz is going to get a full-time role at tight end. He's had 21 targets over his last 3 games, even with Dallas Goddard on the field. That's averaging 7 targets per game. So he's going to be in a full-time role. The point total, as you can see here, is about 52.5. Ertz is definitely worth a solid stream this week. I think he's going to get the job done. And again, this is a game where Jalen Hurts is going to have to air it out. So I like Ertz this week, oddly enough. We got another London game. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Miami Dolphins in London. This game will be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Trevor Lawrence has looked better, right? He definitely doesn't look as bad as he did early on in the year, ever since that Thursday night game. And this isn't a bad matchup to throw him in either. So if you're desperate for a streamer, I don't hate it. James Robinson, after that stellar week on Thursday Night Football, he followed up with another great performance, totaling almost 150 yards on the ground. Now he faces Miami, who has been very susceptible to running backs. He did lose some snaps to Hyde last week, but he still had 19 opportunities, which, as I mentioned, took for 150 yards on the ground. Not so much a factor in the passing game, but James Robinson is still getting it done, so he's still a weekly start. Look, the matchup is good for the Jacksonville wide receivers this week. I don't hate any of the matchups for Laviska or Marvin. It's just about how involved they're getting. I mean, it's ridiculous. Tavon Austin and what's his name? Jamal Agnew are combining for like almost 3 times the amount of targets that Shenault and Marvin combined for. Well, almost twice the amount that Shenault and Marvin combined for. So it's getting a little ridiculous in Jacksonville. Laviska 3 targets and 23 routes. Marvin 4 targets and 33 routes. I believe Tavon Austin had 6 targets and Jamal Agnew had like 8. So this wide receiver core is getting ridiculous. Dan Arnold, meanwhile, jumped from 32% of the snaps to 73% of the snaps. He had just been traded that last week, so now he's in a full-time role. He went from 11 routes to 30 routes and 2 targets to 8 targets. He had an 88% route participation, which is high, and that's great for a tight end. Anytime you see a tight end really having anything over an 80-85% route participation is awesome. So he went from playing less than half the snaps to being a full-time starter, and he's playing half of his current snaps from the slot. They're doing a lot of 2 tight end sets. It's really taking away opportunity from Laviska. Marvin isn't being as involved. So I'm being very cautious with these Jacksonville wide receivers until proven otherwise, and Dan Arnold is worth a start, I guess. It's ridiculous. Tua is expected to be back for this game. So I don't hate him in this matchup, but again, first game back from a rib injury. If he gets hit in the ribs once, it's not going to be good. And as far as I know, this is a pain tolerance thing, so, and I'm sure he'll wear like a flak jacket, but still. Myles Gaskin just going to waltz into week 4. Just going to waltz into week 5, thinking that we forgot what happened in week 4. He went from 2 touches to 15 touches. 10 of those touches from last week were catches. And that's concerning because Jacoby Brissett, he averaged 5.4 yards per attempt when he was a starter, which is awful. That is very, very low. So it was right in the range of looking for a guy like Gaskin as opposed to someone like Devontae Parker or Will Fuller when he returns on the outside. So that did favor him. Now with Tua back, how is that going to affect him? There is hope for Gaskin, though, because Gaskin, in his first couple of weeks, graded awfully as a pass blocker, right? So he was not good in pass protection at all. I think that's what led to his benching, right? That could have been the key to why he wasn't getting work in, I believe it was week 4. Now in week 5, last week, he saw his snaps ramp up after his benching, and he graded much better in pass protection. So this could speak to getting his role back. He played over 60% of the snaps. He was very effective as a pass catcher. They're down some pass catchers right now. Will Fuller is on IR. And Devontae Parker is still dealing with an injury. He did not practice on Wednesday, so he's trending in the wrong direction. They're going to have to fly out pretty early in the week. I believe they fly out on Thursday. I think that's what the Falcons and the Jets did. So basically, we should know tomorrow if Devontae Parker is going to be playing in this game or not. If he's not, Jalen Waddle and Myles Gaskin might be in for more targets again, but we'll see. But as of right now, it doesn't look like Devontae Parker is going to play, and unfortunately, we're going to have to know by tomorrow because the plane's taken off. And I'm sure if he doesn't have to play, he's not going to spend some time in London. So, so Waddle's routes went up, but the targets still aren't there. I think this has to do with Jacoby Brissett kind of just running a terrible offense, and Jacoby Brissett also looking a lot more towards Mike Gesicki. Tua doesn't really do that as much, and Waddle had his best game with Tua in week 1. So with no other wide receivers and presumably no Jacoby Brissett, I think Waddle could have a bounce back game here in London. I think it's very possible. For what it's worth, I believe Waddle is also doing kick returns and punt returns. So if you're in a kick return, punt return league, that's great for you. Parker, as I mentioned, didn't practice Wednesday, and I'm trying to be careful with Big Mike. Okay. Carolina Panthers hosting the Minnesota Vikings. So Christian McCaffrey. Well, let's start with Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold kind of fell back to earth last week. He did not get saved by a rushing touchdown. Things could come back to normal here as Minnesota's defense has not been great. They've been torn up by a couple different quarterbacks so far. They've also been involved in a lot of shootouts, so this 46-point total is a little surprising here. But considering the way both these teams played the last 2 weeks is, I guess, understandable. I'm not crazy about Sam Darnold in this game. I want to see a lot more involvement from DJ Moore. But as far as the running backs go, Christian McCaffrey back to practicing. He is practicing on Wednesday, and that's a great sign. He is limited practicing on Wednesday. He did practice limited last week, but the biggest thing is the Panthers are being smart. They want Christian McCaffrey back at 100%. They do not want him 80%. They do not want him 90%. They want Christian McCaffrey back at 100% because they want to give him the ball that many times. So, even though he is practicing on Wednesday, I would assume that Christian McCaffrey is not going to play unless he shows a full participation in practice. So if by Friday he still hasn't practiced in full, then I would start to worry about if he's going to play or not. If tomorrow he goes to full, or maybe he downgrades to no practicing, we'll see. We'll have to monitor during the week. As of right now, he's on a good track to play, but the Panthers want him back at 100%. DJ Moore had the same amount of targets as Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson just can't get it going, and I really don't trust DJ Moore to get it going. So, yeah. Tight end wise, there's not enough intrigue there in Carolina. As for the Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, I don't hate him here, but he's going to be under a lot of pressure. Delvin Cook, he is practicing. It is Wednesday. He missed last week. I think the Vikings were just being cautious. Alexander Mattison did great in his spot. So I think I'm expecting Delvin Cook to be back this week, and if he's back, you're starting him 100%. Wide receivers, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson continues to be a week-to-week start. Adam Thielen continues to be a high upside start each week. Kirk didn't really throw the ball that much last week, so that could speak to Adam Thielen's low target numbers. And I'm still not interested in Tyler Conklin. Indianapolis Colts hosting the Houston Texans. Colts are 10-point favorites in this game. I don't hate Carson Wentz as a streamer. He actually looked pretty good against the Ravens on Monday night. So this is probably the healthiest he's been. Jonathan Taylor, he's still not playing a full complement of snaps. But if you saw him on Monday, you know he's playing his absolute mind out right now. The game script is in his favor. I think this is a game where Jonathan Taylor can just kind of take control and run the game out and put up a similar performance to what he did Monday. So I like Jonathan Taylor a lot this week. Nyheim Hines, I guess there's some intrigue here, but Jonathan Taylor has been getting more targets than him. Hines has really fallen off a little bit, so I'm going to lean away from Hines this week. Quinton Nelson is still on IR, but this line should hold against the weak Texans front. I mentioned game script is there. Michael Pittman, the breakout. In the last 4 weeks, 16.9 points per game, 9.8 targets per game. T.Y. Hilton might be back this week. And if there's one team T.Y. Hilton actually does good against, it's the Texans. So do with that information what you will. I'm not starting T.Y. Hilton anywhere, but it's just kind of a word of caution, I guess. As far as the Texans side, I don't trust Davis Mills. There's no point in talking about these running backs. Although David Johnson has led this team in snaps, and he's been getting consistent targets, so if that continues, maybe he's worth a pickup sometime soon. If you're in PPR as a desperate depth bench guy, we'll see. I think this is a Brandon Cooks bounce back game. So his routes, the amount of routes that he's running hasn't changed. He's just really had 2 really tough matchups in back-to-back weeks. And just 2 weeks ago, he still had a 33% target share. He just wasn't able to get it done in the tough matchup. And then, which I believe was against the Bills, where they got shut out. And then last week against the Patriots, if you know one thing about the Patriots, what they do is they take away, the Bill Belichick method is to take away your best weapon and just kind of hope that you can get it done without him. So they took away Brandon Cooks last week, and they had some familiarity going against Cook because he was a Patriot not too long ago. He's got a much better matchup against the Colts. Right now, Xavier Rhodes has a concussion. He may not play in this game. He hasn't been great anyway, but the Colts secondary right now is a ton of injuries, so they have some rookies starting. I think Brandon Cooks can get back on track in this game. The spread also is in favor of Houston needing to pass it as well. Okay. Speaking of Monday night, Baltimore Ravens hosting the LA Chargers. They're not playing on Monday night, but Baltimore had a huge game, and that kind of speaks again to what Brandon Cooks is going to be able to do. Lamar Jackson had over 400 passing yards. That's the first time he's ever done that in a game where they're supposed to break the rushing record for the most consecutive games with 100 plus rushing yards as a team. So, and they were pretty close, but just missed the cut. Look, for Baltimore, I'm loving Lamar, what he's doing. I'm loving Marquise Brown, and I'm loving Mark Andrews. I think this point total needs to be higher, 52. I think they're definitely going to beat that. Justin Herbert has been forced into a ton of shootouts, and Baltimore's defense has been pretty leaky as well. So I love Andrews. I love Marquise Brown. I love Lamar Jackson. As for this running back room, I just don't think there's going to be enough opportunity in this game. I don't think Latavius Murray is really going to get his chance here. As for the Chargers, you're starting Herbert, you're starting Eckler, you're starting Mike Williams, you're starting Keenan Allen. That's, kind of the way it goes. If you're desperate for tight end, Jared Cook in a blow-up game, why not? Right? There's not really too much to add here. Got a couple more games here. We got Washington football team hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Washington Taylor Heineke has been playing pretty well. So I love him as a streamer, especially against Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City has statistically been the worst defense in the entire league this year. They're just allowing, I think they're averaging over 30 points allowed per game. So I do like Taylor Heineke a lot in this game. And this 56-point total kind of speaks to that. Both these defenses have been, the secondaries especially have been awful. So, as I mentioned, I do like Taylor Heineke as a streamer a lot. I think Antonio Gibson is usable. He's definitely getting, even with that shin fracture, oh my god, it's awful that he's playing through that. But it hasn't been affecting him. He's looked great on the ground, and as I mentioned, Kansas City has the worst defense in the NFL right now. Chris Jones being out plays a big part of that as well. Terry, he kind of slipped off a little bit last week, but he's still getting a ton of targets. Curtis Samuel's now going to be out for a little bit. Logan Thomas is still out. And look, if you're playing DFS, Terry McLaurin is a must start this week. He's going to get a ton. I don't know what his price is, but whatever it is, he's going to be well worth it this week, okay? Talking about being well worth their price, Ricky Seals-Jones. He had 9 targets last week. He ran 42 routes. This game is going to be huge. Both sides have terrible secondaries. If you need a tight end streamer, there's a chance Ricky Seals-Jones is available on your waivers. I'd start him. He's going to get some work. And I believe he was on the Kansas City Chiefs last year, so maybe a little bit of a revenge game for RSJ. Who knows? Kansas City-wise, there's not really much to talk about here. You guys already know you're starting Tyreek. You already know you're starting Travis Kelce. You already know you're starting Patrick Mahomes. Darrell Williams seems to be the biggest question here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on IR, so Darrell Williams is assumed to be the starter here. He's worth if you're desperate, I'm okay starting him. I just have a fear that Jerick McKinnon's going to be a little more involved than we like. Derek Gore, the guy they brought up from the practice squad, maybe he's not the son of Frank Gore. Maybe he gets involved. It's just a tricky situation. I don't think Darrell Williams is really guaranteed this workhorse role, and he's not going to get that. So this is going to be a shared role with Williams, presumably being the RB1 on the team. So we'll see. I'm just a little cautious about Darrell Williams. He's definitely not an auto start. We got Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers. Justin Fields, as of right now, I believe he is on track to play. And I want to see this dude play. I want to see Justin Fields throw the ball more than 20 times because he really hasn't done that. And Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Cole Kmet, they're all, the 3 of those guys are dominating this team in terms of, target share. So if you have a game where Justin Fields throws the ball 40 times, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Cole Kmet are going to have a great game, right? In this game here against Green Bay, they are going to be playing from behind. Jair Alexander is on IR, so that secondary is Swiss cheese, Wisconsin cheese right now. So, look, theoretically, Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney should be up for a good game. It's just going to be about, is Justin Fields going to actually throw the ball? Running back-wise, Dave Montgomery still out. He's projected to be out for a bit longer. Damian Williams, Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert led this backfield in carries. He led this backfield in snaps. That was a positive game script, and Herbert had 0 targets. So in a game like this against Green Bay, they're going to be playing from behind. Damian Williams did have 20 opportunities, including 16 carries himself. So I'm expecting this to be more of a Damian Williams game, but I'm selling high on Damian Williams if possible. Khalil Herbert was very, very involved, and that's a little worrisome if you spent a ton of fab on Damian Williams, as I did. As far as Green Bay goes, right? So Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, of course, you're starting him. Devontae Adams with this absurd target share right now. You can't sit him. Tanyan not getting it done. Aaron Jones, you're starting him. A.J. Dillon starting to get a little more involved as a pass catcher. This is turning more from a Jones being the 1 and Dillon being the 2 to Jones being the 1A and Dillon being the 2B and the 1B. So we'll have to see how this situation keeps playing out. But that's what it's looking like right now. New York Giants at home hosting the LA Rams. Daniel Jones on track to play. Saquon Barkley is going to be out with a low ankle sprain, more than likely, which means Devontae Booker is going to be the guy for them. He had 88% of the snaps, I'm talking about Booker here, last week. Which, fun fact, even though he literally came in for an injured Saquon, Devontae Booker tied the league lead in snaps for running backs last week with 88% of the snaps. So with Saquon out, I'm expecting a workhorse role from Devontae Booker. I think targets will save him in this game, and he'll be usable even against the Rams. Wide receivers, Kenny Golladay has a hyperextended knee. He's expected to miss this game. So with the rest of the wide receivers, Sterling Shepard is practicing right now. He is on track to start this game. Darius Slayton, I don't think after what he's done, he's going to be as involved. I think John Ross is going to kind of cut into his role on the outside. And I think Kadarius Toney, after what he was able to do last week, he was on the field for 53% of the snaps, and he had 13 targets, which is 53% resulted in 37 snaps. He had 13 targets. That's absurd. It is a huge target share, but with Sterling Shepard back on the field and Kadarius Toney playing on the outside, I don't know what kind of coverage he's going to draw. Sterling Shepard obviously has optimal coverage in the slot, so we'll have to see how this goes. The game script is going to be in favor of passing. I still don't fully believe in Toney as a route runner. His routes did look a little sloppy. And I mean, he played great, and he's lucky he's got that burst and that quickness, because no matter how bad his route is, he's able to make a cut and get open, which is fine. I just kind of worry about him in the playbook and connecting with Daniel Jones, but we'll see. We'll see. So Toney, as of right now, I'm being cautious on. I'm calling him a boom or bust. Sterling Shepard, assuming he's healthy, assuming he's able to play a full game, I think Sterling Shepard's in for a decent game as well. He was killing it with Daniel Jones before he got injured. Kadarius Toney did a lot of his work with Mclaren last week as well. Tight end Evan Ingram, I'm not all that interested in. As for the Rams, Matt Stafford, of course, you're starting him. Running back wise, Darrell Henderson, as long as he's playing, you're starting him. Wide receiver wise, Robert Woods coming off a huge game. He remains a mid to low wide receiver 2. Cooper Kupp, mid to low wide receiver 1. Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, not really interested in either of those guys this game. And Tyler Higbee, of course, the usual hit or miss. Most of the time he's missing. Detroit Lions hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Dan Campbell wants that win really, really badly. I don't think it's going to happen here against the Bengals. For Detroit, Jared Goff, he's not really worth the streamer for me. Deandra Swift, I do want to bring up a tweet from a buddy of mine, Alex from Fresh Fantasy, Alex Caruso. The Bengals have allowed the highest target share to running backs this year in terms of their defense, the Bengals defense. And Deandra Swift leads the NFL in receptions, and he's second in targets. So this could be a pretty big Deandra Swift blow-up game. So yeah, take that as you will. Wide receiver-wise, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 targets in each of the last 2 weeks. Pretty impressive. Not 100% sold on if that will continue. I just want to check the status of Tyra Williams real quick, just because I think he should be returning fairly soon. So he is projected this week. But recent report says Dan Campbell, he isn't on track. So there's a good chance Tyra Williams doesn't play in this game, which makes Amon-Ra St. Brown all that more intriguing, especially with Quintez Cephas with a broken collarbone. So, yeah, and look, TJ Hawkinson, right? I feel like everybody's trying to figure out what's going on with TJ Hawkinson. I did some digging, and I think I know why, but let's see. So he hasn't been given opportunities, right? His routes have gone down, and he's being used a lot more as a run blocker. So Hawkinson is blocking more. He's not catching as many passes. I think they need to start getting him the ball again. When Hawkinson has over 40 routes ran, he has over at least 8 targets. But when he's not running those routes, he's not being involved as a receiver. He's being involved as a run blocker. And this is a team that wants their offense to flow through their running backs. So I'm a little weary of Hawkinson. I'm not necessarily ready to give up on TJ Hawkinson right now, but I am willing to invest in a good backup for him, right? Because I'm going to give Hawkinson another week or two. And if I don't see any improvement or any increase in targets or any note from the coach that we need to get him more involved, then I'm going to have to bench him and hopefully have a guy behind him who I can use. Okay? For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's not talking during the week right now. He had a throat contusion, which is a bruised throat. Sounds really painful, but he's practicing in full. He's just going to have to limit how much he's speaking. Crazy. 2 players this past week had a throat contusion. How weird is that? But yeah, he's on track to play this week. Joe Mixon, I had mentioned that he was going to be limited in this game. He only saw 20% of the snaps. He was fighting off that low ankle sprain. He is practicing in a limited fashion on Wednesday, which is a great sign. Samaje Perine currently on the COVID list. So I'm expecting Joe Mixon to play this week. I'm expecting him to get back to his full complement of snaps. And, in a game potentially without Samaje Perine, in a great matchup against Detroit, they might have a good game script. I think Joe Mixon should have a pretty good game. So I'm expecting a bounce back from Joe Mixon here. Wide receivers, Jamar Chase, you cannot sit him right now. T. Higgins, he's doing pretty well. And then Tyler Boyd, he's kind of not the beneficiary here. As of right now, Tyler Boyd is not getting targeted enough. So I'm going to avoid Tyler Boyd. He's just not producing. So, yeah, Jamar Chase I'm fine with. T. Higgins, I'll call him a flex. Joe Mixon, a low-end running back 1. And, yeah, so we got a couple more games here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left. Let's run through this. God, Cleveland. I'm so frustrated with Cleveland. Like, every week there's just this new random-ass name that just becomes involved. Anthony Schwartz, David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like, just give us Odell Beckham. Give us Nick Chubb. Keep your Demetric Feltons. Like, we don't need this. This team is just so frustrating to try to predict. So I really just don't, like, none of the data matches up to anything. Like, David Njoku can run more routes than Austin Hooper, but then Austin Hooper blows up. Or guess what? This week it's Harrison Bryant. There is no, and I think that's really hurting Baker too, is the fact that there's no consistency with the weapons in this offense. So this should be a game where they have to throw the ball. I mean, Arizona's the best offense in the entire NFL, and the point total is not even at 50. What does that tell you? Right? So I'm staying away from Baker. You're starting Nick Chubb. You're starting Kareem Hunt. And I'm not starting anyone else. I'm not comfortably starting anyone else. I'm not starting Odell Beckham. No David Njoku. No Austin Hooper. I'm just not. Okay? As far as Arizona goes, Kyler's doing his thing. Chase Edmonds should be back to full health this week, assuming he doesn't have some sort of setback. So Edmonds should be back in your lineup. Connor, again, he's been lucky with some touchdowns, but I'm not too confident in him this week. Wide receivers, Deandra Hopkins, of course, you're starting him. Rondell Moore, maybe a flex option. And then Christian Kirk and AJ Green also maybe a flex option. With Max Williams out, who is actually carving out a pretty decent role, it could open things up for a guy like Rondell Moore. So we should see some of these other wide receivers start to get more consistently involved. Can't believe Max Williams is the reason for that, but whatever. New England Patriots hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Mac Jones, I do not like him this week. I do not like him at all. Damian Harris battling a chest injury. I wonder, I don't think he practiced today. It is a Wednesday, So let me just double check. But at last I saw, Damian Harris, he was listed as a non-participant. So he was in attendance for Wednesday's practice, but he didn't take part in any team drills. So it looks like Damian Harris is looking to practice in some capacity this week, and he's going to have to do so if he wants to play. Brandon Bolden, this is probably a game where they're going to be behind. They're going to have to throw it. I like Brandon Bolden, I guess, in that respect. Not willing to really start him, though. Wide receivers, Jacoby Myers, still killing it. He didn't really do much last week, but I think he's going to get back on track here against Dallas. I know Trevon Diggs has been great at getting interceptions, but he's been terrible in coverage. So, although he's been getting the turnovers, he is allowing record-breaking numbers in terms of receiving yards. So, there's that. And plus, Jacoby Myers plays in the slot. Diggs is probably going to be outside against Nelson Aguilar. I do really like Hunter Henry in this game. Hunter Henry has seen his snaps ramp up. He had a crazy high target share this week. He had a 26.7% target share. Henry is solidifying himself as the tight end 1 on this team. I will start Henry this week if you are desperate. Dallas, you're starting Dak, you're starting Zeke, you're starting CD, you're starting Murray Cooper, and you're starting Dalton Schultz. Those are your must-starts from Dallas. Denver with Teddy Bridgewater. They might bounce back here. I don't hate Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams in this matchup. I do also like Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick's getting involved. Noah Fant. Everybody. Tim Patrick is basically just a boom or bust flex. Noah Fant is Noah Fant. He's tight end, boom or bust. Courtland Sutton, he should be fine this week. And I like both these running backs. Teddy Bridgewater, I'm okay with him as a streamer. As for Vegas, this team is in shambles. John Gruden just fired. Man, I want to see what this offense looks like. I don't want to jump to any conclusions about what changes are going to be made and what players are going to be used, what players are not going to be used, because John Gruden had a lot of influence on this team. So I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to stick to my studs with Josh Jacobs. I'm going to stick to Darren Waller, and I'm just not going to touch anyone else until I see what this offense is. Pittsburgh Steelers at home hosting Geno Smith and Seattle Seahawks. Crazy how we're at this point where Big Ben may not be the worst quarterback on the field. We'll see. He still might be. Big Ben I'm okay with. If you're really desperate for a streamer, just don't expect a lot for him. Najee, I think he's going to have a great night. We're going to get to see Najee on primetime. That's awesome. Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. With Juju basically out for the year, which I don't know if it's been confirmed, but he is expected to be out for the year. Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson are weekly flex / wide receiver too. So I'm fine with starting both of these guys. Pat Freiermuth not getting enough. Geno Smith, he looked sharp. I mean, he had a pretty bad interception to kind of give the game away last week. A lot of that is because Tyler Lockett did fall on his route, which led to the interception. But Geno Smith looked sharp. So I think he can still support Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So I will start both of those guys as well. Running back wise, Chris Carson returning, maybe Alex Collins getting involved. I'm just going to lower my expectations for Chris Carson. I think they're going to want to run, but they're just not going to be able to. And Gerald Everett coming back doesn't really mean much, especially with Russell Wilson out for 6 to 8 weeks. So going to avoid that. Last game here, we got Tennessee Titans hosting the Buffalo Bills. It's not been pretty for Tennessee. I mean, losing to the Jets is never pretty, but look, this is a game where Ryan Tannehill is theoretically going to have to throw the ball. This is not going to be a Derrick Henry run it out type game, which I'm sure he'll still get his, but we'll see. Wide receiver wise, look, A.J. Brown has not been getting it done lately, But in the 2 games that A.J. Brown has played, where he's played over 80% of the snaps, he's had 8 and 9 targets. So A.J. Brown right now, he is not limited in practice. He is practicing in full. He is the healthiest he's been all year. Julio is also expected to play this week. He's practicing limited right now. So with Julio on the other side, a game where they're going to have to pass the ball, A.J. Brown being healthy, presumably getting close to 10 targets in this game, I think it could be a sneaky game for him. I think A.J. Brown can actually do something in this game. And even last week, Ryan Tannehill threw the ball only 22 times, and A.J. Brown walked away with a 27% target share. So they're not going to be able to double cover A.J. Brown. They may not want to, especially with having Julio on the other side. So I don't hate A.J. Brown here. Julio's going to be boom or bust. He's still dealing with an injury. As far as Buffalo goes, of course, you're starting Josh Allen. You're starting Dawson Knox. You're starting Stephon Diggs. Emmanuel Sanders as a flex if needed. But how about Zach Moss taking over this backfield? He played 74% of the snaps. So this is no longer a 1A and 1B with him and Devin Singletary. He is the RB1 in Buffalo. So he is turning into a weekly low-end running back too. And that's amazing. So it's good to see Zach Moss getting his work. 54-point total. Worst case, look for the games with the high totals. All right, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching as I'm losing my voice here, per usual. If you guys ever have any questions, you can drop them down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.